Dennis Green with Church Development and the Stewardship System. We're going to cover the sixth component out of our 7 in the Stewardship System. We've spent 18 years helping hundreds of churches raise millions of dollars, and they've all participated in our research and the creation of this system. The focal point, the apex, is the ask. You have a wonderful opportunity to present your members with a discernment exercise if you base your ask in prayer. Most churches don't do that. As a matter of fact, half of all churches do not ask for a pledge. As a matter of fact, in the book Giving Matters, the authors identify the impact of the very first solicitation for a pledge. If you're in a Baptist church, giving goes up 33%. In a Lutheran church, giving goes up 44%. If you're in a Catholic church, giving goes up 78%. In the research on an envelope service and the impact that receiving 4 envelopes in the mail each month from your church, where each one of those envelopes is identified with a particular Sunday, just the receipt is the nonverbal ask, and that, according to the envelope service providers, will stimulate an increase in giving of 9%. So now you know just the asking process alone will stimulate significant generosity. In 1989, Yanklevich, Skelly, and White did a survey of donors to ask them if they would give more. Among active donors, 60% said they would give more. So of course the follow-up question was, well, why don't you? And their answer, because I wasn't asked. Cy Seymour, in his book Design on Fundraising, guided us with the thesis, the decision to give is an intuitive one, supported by rationalizations. So let's take a step back to our definition of stewardship. God's blessings flow through us. So we've got to answer the question, why should I give, long before we ask for a pledge. Now, in church development, we've analyzed the components of what makes a successful campaign, and we've discovered that there's a very high correlation in the collection process between the ask being based in prayer versus the secular ask, give, and here's a pledge card, I'll wait while you fill it out. If the individual takes the time to pray and discern, they will fulfill 95% of their pledge versus 85% collection rate in the secular method. Now, the methods for asking, you have many options to choose from, and you've got to select what would work in your church based on your unique needs. In general, we can say there are 4 asks per year: an annual ask, a gift for a capital improvement, a year-end gift, and this facilitates giving from your high-income individuals, and your emergency ask. And the joke in our business, of course, is you've got to plan your emergency out well in advance. In fact, you probably have a dozen emergencies per year. You just need to select one during your downtime to share with your members, because there's somebody there who will only respond to an emergency ask. Just like the other asks appeal to different types of donors. I'd like to add one more to that 4 basic, and that is the planned giving ask. The research says that at any given time you have about 3% of your population that's ready, willing, and able to make a gift through their estate. So I encourage you every year to have some event that embodies the ask. If you make a commitment to the church through your estate plan, you'll be invited to this special event, but perhaps it's Thanksgiving dinner with the pastor. But every year I would encourage you to ask every individual for the 4 normal asks plus the estate planning ask. I would encourage you also to have a prayer guide. So during the asking process, a person has scripture, parables, reflection to guide them through the discerning process. Your ask has got to be visual, auditory, kinesthetic, so a person can imagine the impact of their giving. The best ask is a proportional one, based on the percentage of a person's income, with 10% being the ideal. Now remember, only 5% of the population does give 10%. The rest of us have a long way to go. You can ask by letter, from the pulpit, a personal visit, a phone call, a magnet for the refrigerator. When we manage a campaign, we think you ought to present the ask a dozen times. That doesn't mean ask them a dozen times. Present it in different modalities, so there is no way for them to miss I am being asked for a pledge. Let me tell you about two success stories. At St. Mark's in Independence, Missouri, we raised 2.5 times annual giving in a capital campaign, but it wasn't enough to build a new church. So we went back to the people and said, would you please prayerfully consider extending your pledge from a 3-year pledge to a 5-year pledge? Here's some scripture to reflect upon. Here's some questions to consider. Here are prayers to offer up that might guide you as you discern your answer. We had an overwhelming embrace of that ask. We moved from 250% of annual giving to 350% of annual giving. That's almost a 40% increase. We did the ask right. It was based in prayer and the people responded. Another success story comes from Grace Bible Church in Columbia, Missouri. They had a real dynamic pastor. Mike Burt was his name. He was building a new church for their congregation, and the old church was based in a funeral home. It was a mortuary. It was not exactly a dynamic, uplifting place to be. Together they designed this vision of this new facility and asked everybody to sponsor a space for the new members that would come in the future after it was built. People had a visual, auditory, kinesthetic representation of what that new church might be and the impact it might have on people's lives. As a result, they had a smashing success in their capital campaign. But more importantly, in the 12 months after that Commitment Sunday, annual giving and attendance went up by 40%. Each of those individuals who made a pledge also became an evangelist, reaching out to invite people into their church, into this new place, to fulfill their vision of what this place might engender. Now, I want to close. We've covered what's an ask look like, how does it unfold properly, the impact of a proper ask on generosity. I want you to go forth, good luck, and remember, from John 16:24, ask and you shall receive.